Right, hello, welcome back to another video. Today's video, we're with the brand new Aston Martin Vanquish. We're next to quite a busy road, so I hope, oh, some sort of fancy BMW that just went by. I hope that there's not too much noise, but this is a car that I've been super curious about trying out since I was lucky enough to have a go in the 12-seat 12 cilindri Ferrari. The video will be linked somewhere, and obviously, coincidence, they came out basically at the same time and are direct rivals, basically the same price. And yeah, I was kind of very curious to see which I thought was the most attractive overall package. First of all, the most attractive is definitely this Vanquish. Now, I personally actually really like the way the 12 cilindri looks, but I was surprised that when I posted that video, there were loads of comments about how much people didn't like the way that the car looked with the Daytona inserts at the front and the rear, which is a bit more kind of squared off and really kind of rough edges. It's not too rounded off as they usually are with the new square light, square exhaust and things like that. Anyways, we're going to talk about this car today, not just the 12C. But this is, I think, one of, if not the best looking modern supercar. It is absolutely stunning when you see it in real. This spec is a beautiful silver with diamond cut wheels. It's a very metallic color. Oh, we got a Roma going by. Very nice. You can't see it now because there's not too much sun, but anyways, I think it suits the kind of character of this car, the 007 Aston Martin-ness. Yeah, lots of things to look around. I mean, it's obviously a completely new car. Vanquish name has come back. So obviously when Vanquish, DBS Superleggera, now the Vanquish name is back. I love these lights which are inspired by the Valkyrie and the Valor. They look really cool. Squared, massive exhaust tips. Lots of chrome on this spec. So chrome exhaust tips, chrome around the windows, which I actually personally think goes really nicely with this kind of very classy spec. You've got this kind of rear area here, the zone, I don't know how you'd call it, on the boot, that you can spec differently. So you can spec it in body color, you can spec it in carbon, gloss carbon, matte carbon, different things like that, and it gives you access to the boot, which while we're here, I'll show you. There's a button somewhere hidden under here, which opens the boot. There you go. It's quite a big boot. We've got lots of stuff in it now. Obviously, this being a GT, the idea is that you're able to drive from London to Monaco with all your luggage. It's not that deep, and you can see here how they've blacked out behind this insert that we were just talking about. Top speed, who really cares that much anymore? You know, it's one of those specs that honestly I don't even really look at that much anymore, because you're probably never going to get up to those 200 miles an hour, and they're all so fast anyways, these modern cars, that doesn't really matter. 3.3, 0 to 60, so 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. That is a more interesting spec, kind of stat, I think. Now, the biggest front grille ever to be fitted to an Aston Martin on the front here, with a pretty ugly plate holder on it. Aston Martin logo also is just massive. It's like they've just upped to the font size a few times on the Aston Martin logo. It looks very 177-ish from the front, which is the biggest compliment you could give to a car. It's got these slats on the side. It is just an absolutely stunning design. These nice little air louvers. It's a carbon hood, which is very cool. Actually, if I ask Thomas to open... Oh, here comes the Roma. With his little wing up. I didn't actually know there was a wing on Romas in the back there. Anyways, here's the hood, under the hood. So, let's talk stats. First of all, let's talk carbon fiber. Look at that, all carbon, and then forged carbon on the sides here. So, twin turbocharged V12, which has very much like AMG, the signature of one of the people who worked on the engine here. So Pedro Costa, thank you for your work on this engine. 835 horsepower, 1,000 Newton meters of torque. So yeah, plenty. And a massive front end. I mean, you've got a twin turbocharged V12 in there and it looks tiny almost. Look at all of the space you've got in front of it. So they try and push the engine back as much as possible. This is a very light hood. Now it does weigh about 200 kilograms more than the 12 cilindri, this Vanquish. But the character is really quite surprising, as I'll show you now. I'm gonna put you on my head and we're gonna hop inside. All right, and in we go. First of all, this one's got loads of carbon options on it, as you can tell here. You can have all sorts of different finishes. You can even get colored carbon fiber now, details on the interior. But the inside, so this is my first time in one of these new interiors by Aston Martin. So if you've been following a little bit since the DB12 and then on the new Vanquish, and even on the DBX 707, you have this completely new interior with a new interface. And honestly, it's brilliant. We've driven up here and I filmed a video for my French channel. And you kind of get used to it really quickly. It's very intuitive if I just kind of kickstart the system. One thing that I really like and that everyone's been going on about are these physical buttons. And if you are comparing it directly to its most direct rival, the 12 cylindry, which has all of those weird haptic touch buttons, this is just a breath of fresh air. So you have everything from your temperature controls, from your volume, your fan speed, your heated and cooled seats, which is a very nice detail, and your exhaust button. So just to, open your exhaust, it's a button right here. You don't need to go through all sorts of menus. Same for your suspension, etc., etc. You have a new screen, completely new interface, which responds really nicely to any inputs, and is where you can also see your different modes. Now, those are controlled through what looks like just an engine start button, but is actually your mode controller as well. So you can go through different modes. I don't know why it's not showing them now. We need to start the car up. Anyways, I'll show you those in a little bit. There's a few different modes. Also, new, if you've had an Aston Martin before or are a big fan of the brand, you'll know that the PRND buttons were always up here on the dash. That has now moved down here to a more traditional setup, which I actually think is just more intuitive and works better. Everything is kind of done in this really nice feeling material. It all just feels solid and quality. They've stuck with the seat controls down here, which is actually quite nice. You can really see what's going on. You're not kind of blindly reaching, like McLaren, it's down here in some weird system, which you can never get used to. This actually feels a lot more intuitive. Steering wheel is really thick, actually slightly weirdly thick, but works. Everything feels quality. All the leather that you're touching is very nice and thick, and yeah, just a real nice feel to it. The paddles are now on the steering wheel rather than stuck behind here, so they'll actually move with the steering wheel, which is a nice touch. And then a digital dash, which does all the things you'd expect from a digital dash. You can set it up different ways. Now, one thing compared to the DBS Superleggera is that this is now just a strict two-seater. It's not a 2+2. There's Thomas here next to me from Aston Martin Monaco. But look, if you look behind here, you now have this reinforcement brace strut back here in carbon fiber, but no rear seats. You do have the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which is all over. You can see down on the dash right there. Standard, which is a really nice touch, as well as this panoramic roof, which is a standard option. It's not a paying option. You can get it in carbon fiber, but I think that's a really nice touch, because in a lot of different manufacturers and with a lot of different cars, this is a really, really pricey option. But, at nearly 400,000 euros, I guess they can't afford to do that. So let's start it up on this button here. Whoa, it sounds good. I hope that the sound comes across well on video, because it's just got such a typical Aston Martin tone to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful sound. So you've got different modes that you can flick through. So you've got Sport, you've got GT, which is your more classic cruising, individual, of course, that you can set up, and for the first time in an Aston, wet mode. Now we're going to kick off straight in Sport Plus, because why not? Manual, which you press down here, and then into drive we go. Handbrake is off, and we're good to go. All right, so Aston Martin Vanquish. Look at this thing. There's a lot of comments about the look, but also the character and sound in the Ferrari 12 cylindry, and that leads you to think that maybe this timing of this new car coming out at the same time as that one could be pretty ideal, because there may be a gap left by Ferrari with the new direction they've taken in the 12 cylindry. Sorry, I say 12 cylindry because I've just been doing a French video, and that's how you'd say it in French. So is this kind of the perfect timing for Aston to fill the gap that Ferrari left by making the 12-cylinder a bit more GT focused? So I'm not only going to talk, I want you to listen to the car as well and let it do some of the talking. So you're probably thinking now, and that's exactly the thing that I thought of first when I got into this, God, it sounds really good. I wasn't expecting it to sound this good. I mean, as soon as you hear twin turbo, you're always skeptical. But it sounds a lot better than I remember the DBS sounding. It is a really fruity noise with more volume, I think, than in the Ferrari even, despite that being naturally aspirated. Now the Ferrari obviously has that very particular tone, but this is just as pleasant, and yeah, it's got all sorts of character to it, more than I thought. But when you first hop into the car, first impression is that it's pretty intimidating from its size. It's extremely long and wide, and the visibility is good, but not like a 911 would be. And so yeah, it's fairly intimidating when you first hop in. And then the first time you put your foot down, I mean, you are just in a world of power. It is absurd how fast this car is. How fast the 12-cylinder is, of course. How fast all of these new cars are. Two things that all new cars have is crazy power, crazy price tags. Seems to just be the norm these days. But it is so impressive. I mean, honestly, it almost feels faster than the Ferrari. I haven't driven a Revuelto yet, and that's another V12 new car from one of these brands. It'll shift up for you if you're a little bit late to the party. The brake pedal feels really nice. The steering doesn't have the most feel. It's less direct, of course, than in the Ferrari, but isn't, you know, the most communicative like you'd have back in the day, but definitely does the job nicely, and it has to kind of have that dual personality of being able to be the GT and the sports car at the same time. So, you know, you have to kind of respect it for that, for being able to do both things. Same thing with the suspension, you know, it's no easy thing to be able to make a car which is great to cruise for hours and hours in, but then also really sporty. And I feel like the balance is pretty well dealt with in this new Vanquish. The interior is such a nice place to be. I mean, it feels special, this car. I mean, it looks special, as we said, like a 177 from the outside, but it also just feels like something really unique and handmade, which you maybe don't get in other cars quite as much. Everything you touch feels really nice. I mean, these paddles feel great. It's a ZF 8-speed gearbox, which is good, but it's not lightning response or as much character as maybe in the Ferrari. Oh, but the noise, even they've managed to kind of dial in character at low speed. You don't need to be going, because the thing is, you go so fast in this so quickly that they've managed, through the noise, through the sound it makes, and upshifts and downshifts, and just the overall kind of feel you get in it. It feels like an exciting experience even when you're not going that fast. I love these wing mirrors which have zero kind of framing around them, which is quite cool, and actually make the car technically not as wide as others, even though it feels very wide, but because the widest point always needs to be the wing mirrors, and because they're frameless, they've kind of gotten past that little loophole. I don't know if you guys can see also, but the look in those wing mirrors over those big rear arches, I mean, I need to stop myself from just constantly be talking about how good this thing looks, and actually talk about the way it drives. But the way it drives is actually surprising. It feels more full of character than I thought it would. It's kind of got this brute force about it. It feels like it's not making any excuses, and it's got its own kind of feel. It doesn't feel like anything else, and that's exactly what you're looking for when you're buying a car in this price range. And it's really got that dual personality that, of course, you expect that Astons have always been very good at, of if you just put it into GT, there you go, like that, out of manual, I mean, it is just such a good cruiser. It's so quiet in here. The V12 kind of, you know, makes a bit less noise, but it's still present. You're still aware that you're in something really special. You can open the exhausts up anyways, even in GT mode if you want to, and then as soon as you kind of just flex your big toe, you've got that presence of that massive engine. And it is just, I think that they've really hit a home run with this car, to be honest. It's very, very tough to go up against the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and Astons have always had this kind of place in the market where they were great cruisers, but maybe just not quite as good on the limit. Obviously very good looking, but I think they've pushed that good looking to another level and closed the gap in terms of the dynamics. I feel like this is a much better performance in terms of drivability on the edge than previous of V12 big Aston Martins, but yet you've still got the comfort and almost breadth of usability, maybe not quite of a Continental GT, but you're not that far from it. So the overall package I just think is fantastic, and then every time you get out, you're able to just look at that unbelievable design where I just think that this car is leaps and bounds above anything else. Myself, as a fan of the 12 cylindry, will happily admit that this is a way better looking car. I mean, it's completely different to a Revuelto. They're different styles. That's kind of ultimate supercar. This is a lot more classy. But personally, I just think this is, right now, the best looking brand new car on the market. You put comments down below on what you think, but I just think it is absolutely stunning. So, you see, even without going that fast, you still got that noise, and even just driving around town like this, once you get by the initial kind of intimidation factor of this car, you're then able to really enjoy it and get to know its character. And it's so refreshing to have a car in which you can, a brand new car, in which you can talk about character. Because, yeah, it's not really a commodity that you see everywhere now, character in a brand new car. I just think it's so great that there are still manufacturers like Ferrari, like Lamborghini, like Aston Martin, who are coming out with a V12 supercar in 2025. I think we should applaud them, thank them, and make the most of it while we've still got it, while it lasts, because who knows how long this will keep going and how long we'll be able to enjoy this kind of car. We've got a little tunnel. Can't go that speedy in here, but... oh! It just sounds so good. It's such a classy sound. I don't know how to explain it to you, but you know how like the 812s, F12s and everything will have that kind of very Italian shouty, die, yes, more power kind of sound to them, if that makes any sense. This is like a classy Brit, you know, talking to you in his classy voice. It's like James Bond. It's how you'd imagine James Bond's car to sound. And look at this new interior. Just how good, with this massive screen right here, this digital dash. They've just done so well. Look at the ambient lighting as well as we just come out of this tunnel. There's some really nice, of course you can do all sorts of color changes and things like that. Just a nice place to be, this interior. There's no front lift. It's fairly high up anyways. You don't necessarily need the front lift on this. I think that's a little bit of a hint towards, you know, the mindset in the development of this car, which was, you know, we want it to be used regularly. Although how much are people actually going to drive these regularly? I don't know. You know, that's kind of a motto that you get told in all of these new cars, is we wanted it to be super usable to crunch miles. But then how many people are actually crunching miles? But it's nice to know that you could if you wanted to. And I don't feel like you lose anything in this Vanquish for that breadth of ability. There's a lot of cars where you go, yes, it's very usable, there's a great breadth of ability, but there's not really any character, and there was a big price to pay for that usability. Whereas in this Aston, I really just feel like it's a great all-round sports car with its own character that also happens to have that great breadth of ability and that GT character and the usability and the boot and the fact that it's not that low and the fact that you've got decent visibility, not amazing, but decent visibility. The steering's not too heavy. I think you guys can probably tell that I am really enjoying this. Obviously a huge thank you to Aston Martin Monaco for lending me this car and being able to have a go in it. I feel like a very lucky boy to have been able to try the 12 Cylindri out and this new Vanquish not too far apart. Obviously you need to drive them back to back to really get a feel for it. Right now, my initial feel is that as an all-round package, this doesn't have anything to envy from the 12 Cylindri. I think it's purely down to your tastes, what you prefer. This is slight more brute force and maybe, dare I say it, a little bit more exciting to drive fast and definitely better looking in my eyes and just as usable. I mean, the Ferrari is also such a usable car. They've really worked on that GT aspect and you could drive that thing anywhere, anytime. It really is pretty impressive just how usable it is, but so's this. So I really think it's just up to what you prefer, what your style is, and I would really struggle to take a decision. If I were in the lucky position to have to choose between one of those two, that is no easy decision to take. Just cruising around town, listen, it's got presence. It's got presence in the way it looks and presence in the way it sounds. The brake pedal has a decent amount of feel to it, but then at the very top of it, you feel like you're braking, but you need to give it a fair amount of force to stop the car fully and stop it from kind of edging off at a stop. It's got an interesting feel to it, the brake pedal. Right, this is the official test, going into a car park. Okay, we're gonna manage. It's quite wide, so I'd rather be too far away from the thing than too close. Not too low, gets past there no problem. Oh, that creeper kind of noise that it's got. No problems at all. See? Perfect daily driver, guys. Oh, I need to put my seatbelt back on. It's not going to be very happy with me. It is very long, it is very wide, but you have the 360 cameras there, which are very useful. Ooh, very cool Urus. I don't know what color that is. Paul Wallace would know. Very cool looking. It's your first time coming along for a parking session in the new Vanquish. These are full tests, full vehicle tests that we're giving to you here on the Seb Delaney channel. From driving it on country roads to parking it in town. This is what it'd be like if you had your very own Vanquish. Ooh, this is very tight. I stopped talking there because it was very tight. And we're in. We are in. We made it. I must have a pretty interesting hairstyle right now. But that was my quick first drive in the Aston Martin Vanquish. I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, I'd love to be able to spend more time with it to actually give you a more in-depth review. But the idea here is that we're doing POV quick first drives whenever I get the chance to try out a new car, which hopefully the next one will be not that long. Huge thanks to Aston Martin Monaco for lending me this car. It's fantastic. Everything I hoped it would be and more. From the looks to the drive to the noise. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers, guys.